Hello. I'm actually at my studio space right now. I wanted to give you guys a little glimpse at some of the stuff that I do, and also give you some better idea of how I keep myself inspired. So this is my workspace at home. I have some of my art books here, and here we have some more books. Also, some of my inspiration binders, which I will have you guys create. It's very important to have binders that you put together to keep yourself even more inspired. And then I keep all of my sculpture supplies here. This is a little oven that I warm up my Chavant clay with. And then I have resins for casting. Some sculpture work, that's actually one of my students' work. Pasta maker for squeezing the clay. Armature wire, and then here's some clay. And then on top of here, I have spray paints. Okay. So over here is where I keep most of my inspiration binders. Here's the heavy metal thing that I carved out of wood when I was a kid. And there's some Casey Love sculptures on top, which is a class. He gave us the sculptures and we painted them. And then here is some binders. Here's all my heavy metal magazines. Ever since I was a teenager, I have them all in binders. So I can totally geek out with that. And then more inspiration binders here, which is very important. And then some how-to tutorials. And then more binders here. So here is some of my teacher's work. His name is Jordu Shell. And he's one of my biggest inspirations. And what I did is I actually bought one of his sculptures, which is a latex mass that was painted with airbrush paints, and it gives it a really beautiful, very realistic, obviously, quality to the work. He's one of the top guys in the business. Here's another sculpture over here by Jordu. Isn't that crazy? And these are some of the books I have. Toxic Tunes, Picasso, Inca Empire. You know, there's all kinds of different types of influences. George Lucas, Tarantino. I have a certain section just on filmmakers. Then I have commercial art, you know, fighting robots, Structura, and all that type of stuff. Midway, H.R. Giger, Lightship, you know, all different kinds of things. And it just really keeps me jazzed to have all these things at my disposal. So when I was first collecting art when I was in college, I didn't have any money for fancy art books. So what I did was I just made black and white copies at the library. And that was the beginning of my inspiration binders. Nowadays, you know, it's a little easier. It's a lot easier actually. You can download stuff from the internet and then print them out. Print them out at Kinko's or print them out on your home printer. So the access is easier, but I think utilizing the books is still a mystery to some people. You know, why do you want to look at so much art? You know, why don't you want to just do art? And the thing is, you want to keep yourself inspired to do different types of art. You know, Spectrum was still is a big influence on me. I was actually able to get my art into a few Spectrum books, 3 or 4 books, which is kind of cool. And these are some of the sculptures I'm working on currently. I really enjoy just creating, and now with a lot of the stuff that I've been able to study, all these different types of art is starting to show up in my work, either with sculpture or with drawing. You know, I just started playing around with this new clay. This is Chavant clay, which never dries, but it gets very hard once it cools, so it really holds its form nicely. This right here is Sculpey, and painted with gouache, and I added chains and things to the character. Here is another character here, monster. I like monsters, you know. Of course, you guys do not have to like monsters. A little female character here, showing her back. And this is what I'm working on right now. And the reason he's covered with plastic is just to keep the dust off of him. But he's going to be half anatomical and half like skin. And I got that influenced by this little toy I just bought, which is amazing. Which is this little dolphin I got at a Halloween store. And you can see it's half of it shows all of its internal stuff. So I want to start my new sculptures. I want to show the insides of my characters as well. This artist is called Chien Rouge, and I have no idea what that means. I'm sure it's either the artist's name or the name of the book. But I just bought this just because of the use of graphics is just gorgeous. This is a comic book, European comic book. But look at how powerful, you know, it's just so exciting. I look at this stuff, I was like, oh man. You know, look at that. And upgrade this page, the way this is all black versus these lighter areas. It's really pretty darn exciting. So I'm always looking for styles that kind of stimulate my brain. You know, these things that that give us something different to look at. Because I was mentioning to you guys drawing from crowds, and you can see here how that the use of drawing from crowds can work for you know, doing a graphic novel. So this is just incredible. This is Chris Curlis, who I believe uses bits and pieces from things that he finds and just glues them together and creates. I actually tracked him down. I was stalking him. I made him sign my book. But you can see the stuff that he's playing around with is pretty bizarre. You know, isn't that great? And again, a completely different way of thinking. But for me, I'm like, oh yeah. You know, taking found sculptures, or maybe even sculpting a character, then finding little bits and pieces, gluing them together, and then painting the whole thing one color, so it all feels like one thing. Another kit bash. This person will take household items and glue them together and turn them into fantasy characters. Isn't that great? And they try to photograph them in like a scene or something like that. Wow. So just looking at this, I'm getting inspired to, you know, eventually start picking up some books to inspire you, but also printing the stuff out. Instead of just leaving it on your hard drive in your computer, having something tangible that you can look at, that you can, it's different than having something that's just on your computer. This is Wayne Barlow, and you can see his really crazy drawings here. Very highly detailed pencil drawings, and these incredibly imaginative paintings that he does. Now I couldn't paint like this, there's no way, but I could build something like this in ZBrush and color it and create something with a very similar vibe if I wanted to, you know what I mean? So there's different ways to create something that inspires you. You don't have to do it their way. Their way is good for them, but it might not work for you. $5. I actually bought like several copies because it was $5. But this is a very animation-y style, but look at that, Jesus, isn't that gorgeous? Very cartoony, make a great animated film. And it looks like shots from the greatest animated film ever, you know? But it's not animated, it's actually a graphic novel. But just wonderful, very alive characters, you know what I mean? So if I ever got a job, you know, doing something along these lines, I could have this book as inspiration to know, well, it gives me something to shoot for. Look at those graphics. You can almost hear the noise, right? You can hear the comic book because of the marks and the dots and dashes. It gives it noise, it gives it sound, you know, it's just incredible. $5. Anyway, isn't that gorgeous? Yes, you can tell that just a sense of love for the page. You know what I mean? And that's what I want to try to get out of you guys, is eventually finding a love for the art that you do, where you're just so passionate about it that you spend forever and getting it just right. This one I had ever since I was a little kid. And actually the book fell apart, so I had to buy a new version of the book. Fairies by Brian Froud. You know, you can see how realistic, I don't know why that's on there, but how realistic his renditions of these ghouls, and also you'll see some fairies in a minute. Look at that, isn't that crazy? Out of control. So I bought this book when I was like 15, and I just stared at it and stared at it, and I still stare at it now. But if I could go back in time, what I would have done is grabbed a pen, whatever pen I have, and I would have copied these drawings. I would have copied this, would have copied that, I would have copied that. Or I would have taken this and mixed these two together. Or mixed these two together. So I wasn't just doing a straight copy. And I would have learned so much more than just carrying the book around for the last 500 years. You know? It's a simple thing. If you like something, just copy it. Or just mix 2 or 3 different characters together, and you learn from it, and then you can forget about it. You know, you can forget about the book, but what you learn from it can get you work, can get you jobs as a concept artist, you know. So it's all about what you learn from when you copy something. It's not about the copy itself. The copy itself you can throw away, right? But what you learn from it is worth its weight in gold. You know, it makes something like this book, which cost, I don't know, $20, worth $2,000. Because if you can learn from some of this stuff and then get a job as a concept artist and you get paid, this book becomes incredibly valuable to you. You know, title designs for movies. A friend of mine, a student at CalArts, brought this book in. I was like, dude, I have to have this book. Give me this book now. So I ordered it online, but it shows title sequences for movies. Look at that. Catch Me If You Can. The same idea, the same power that you see in that graphic novel, that animation graphic novel that shows you, is here in a title design for a Spielberg movie. You know, so those same concepts of design, of graphics, can segue into everything else that you work on. It looks like a 007 movie here. But look at the sense of graphic design. Isn't that great? So this stuff that we're talking about, not only can it be used to make great art, but you can make a great living. You can make money, you know? Doing a little title sequence. Look at that. It's freaking awesome. It gives me an ideas right now. I'm going to keep this book open. So what I'll do is if I see something, I'm like, okay, I can't take it anymore. This is too exciting. I have to do it. This is kind of popping into my head. I'll open up the book and then leave it on the floor or leave it open so I can remember it, or I'll make like a little tag here. And I'm doing some stuff right now for my film that I would like to use some of this idea of adding types. So I'm going to keep this open. So I actually went to, they had something in Los Angeles, was a presentation of the art of Prometheus. So I had the main concept artist sign my book. But what's important about this book is you can see what concept art looks like for live action film right now. This is what they expect to see. This is a very current movie, top of the line, top budget. This is what they want to see. They want to see realism. They want to see, they want to see the shot before it's even filmed. So it's good to at least acknowledge or figure out, there's the concept painting. Here's some more renditions of the spaceships right here. So it's very realistic. Totally doable. I know I can do this in ZBrush. And then take it into Photoshop and paint it. But I want to know, what they expect. Because if you don't know, you don't know what to shoot for, right? Man food. Got to be good if you say man food. Look at this stuff. Very edgy. Very graphic. keep using the word graphic, but very using a lot of flat colors, you know, very close to, again, graphic design. Kind of another completely different style. So, what does, I mean, you could get overwhelmed too. You're like, oh my God, I want to do all of it, you know. You can do all of it. It's just going to take a little bit of time. It's going to take a lifetime. But the thing is, what I would do now, which I didn't do when I was younger, is I would slow down. I would just copy this. One thing, I like this guy Manfred. I like his style. There's something about it that speaks to me. I'll copy this, or do my own person in this exact style, exactly, to nail it. And then you'd be surprised how much you learn. You know what I mean? If you were to ink something, and then it's very easy to color this stuff in Photoshop. It's just flat colors. And then color it, and you might be like, okay, I don't need to look at man food anymore. You know what I mean? I've kind of got what I need. This is one of my many illustration binders. Okay. I have, this happens to be, I guess, I'm just looking at it. There's a picture of a fly and some sculpture work, some incredible drawings here, right? But it's in a 3-ring binder. That way, I can take out the pages that I want to look at that day. So it's real modular, you know. Some funky sculptures. You know, right now, in this particular part of my life, I'm looking a lot at sculpture work. Anatomy, kind of funky anatomy, but, you know, interesting anatomy, ideas for sculptures. And sometimes what I'll do, too, is I'll print stuff out on a page, so I'm not using up that much ink. You know, so you can see probably the influence of my work is on, you know, from looking at these other types of people. Look at that. This is one of my favorite people. He just takes dolls and decorates them with little doll parts and things like that. It comes like this post-apocalyptic type of situation. It's really cool. The making of Pink Floyd The Wall. Have you ever seen this movie? Is one of my favorite movies of all time. But I just got this book in the mail like 2 days ago. I haven't even really looked through it, but it's a film that's part animation and then part live action. It's a very surreal, twisted, disturbing movie, but it has something that I find just very interesting and inspiring. And the book was like $10 on Amazon. You can buy it right now. It's ridiculous. But it shows all the rough sketches, or a lot of the rough sketches that were done, you know, before the animation was done. Huge influence on my work. Now, of course, for you guys, of course you're going to have different influences, different films that you like. It doesn't have to be Pink Floyd, you know. It could be anything. Ashley Wood, another huge influence. At least when it comes to the direction, I had a hard time actually copying this style for some reason. It just, I don't know, it was just too crazy. It really kind of made me feel very uncomfortable. But I still look at it just because the sense of excitement that he gets in his artwork and in his posing. You know, this is something, again, I want you guys to think about, is using brush and ink and splatters and just ways to excite your page, you know, along with just cool drawings, you know. But yeah, just ways to kind of excite the page, you know. When I think of figure drawing, I think of this stuff. I think of something that's really exciting. You know, if someone's just sitting there slowly copying the figure, measuring and stuff like that, you're putting yourself to sleep, you're putting your classmates to sleep, you're putting anyone who's looking at your portfolio to sleep. You want to have something that's exciting and dynamic and wild and taking chances and really just, you know, blowing people away. Everyone knows this guy, right? Everyone knows Picasso and Michelangelo, right? What I've been noticing, sometimes I'll just look at his rough sketches. And yeah, he is the master, and, he's the best. But you can learn just from copying, from anybody, especially Michelangelo. And I was actually looking at and studying his rough sculptures that he did before he passed away, which I find really fascinating. Because you can see, he doesn't finish everything all at the same time. You notice how clean the legs are? Right around here, and how everything else is so rough. This gives you an insight into Michelangelo's psyche. You know what I mean? It's interesting. Like, look at this. Look at how clean this area is here. This is what he cared about the most, was this area right here. Look at that. This is so rough. You know what I mean? I would tell some people, some of my friends, yeah, I start with the toes. I'm like, what? You weirdo. And it's like, as an artist, you're going to start with what attracts you and then work your way from there. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, you have to do the overall all the time. No, you can focus on one thing. It's good enough for Michelangelo. Good enough for anybody. Okay. So, one more book, and you get the basic idea. This is an incredible book. You should all run out and buy this book right now. The Art of Urban Sketching. Really, really, really perfect for this particular class. Okay? Look at that. Exactly what we're talking about. Rough sketches, not necessarily finished, oh my God, illustrations. But this particular book, if you're going to buy any book besides, if you're going to buy any book, I would get this one first. It shows different artists drawing in different parts of the world. And it's nothing crazy. It's just the world around them. But this is exactly, especially for Cal Arts, and I would say a lot of other schools. I would say all of the schools, to be perfectly honest with you, love this stuff. It's just, okay, let's say you do a street scene, right? Let's say you go to Disneyland or whatever. The drawing's done. What do I do with it next? What if you're to lay in watercolor shapes based on what you see, and it creates this really rich visual? And basically everything, not everything, but a lot of the stuff I'm going to be teaching is in this book. What's great about this, number one, not only you have the book, but you can actually read the artist's ideas about what they did. It's like a textbook of how to create this kick butt portfolio. I forgot that I had this book. This was like freaking awesome. So yes, if you can, run out and buy this book right now. Order it online, borrow it, whatever you have to do, get your hands on this book. This is a friend of mine. We went to school together. Her name is Ronnie, and she was way ahead of me for sure. But a lot of my friends are in this book as well. I'm not in this book. I think I kind of separated from this way of working, got more into science fiction. You see the weird sculptures I'm doing. But my background is in, location drawing, reportage drawing. Anyway, everything, it's so cool, man. If you can, I can't really force you guys to get the book, but if you're really serious about getting your portfolio together, and you've taken this class, and you've spent a certain amount of money, spending an additional $20, is money in the bank, my friend. It's just chock full of ideas, of this really raw, just putting it down, you know what I mean? But there's a certain sense of impact, and there's a certain editing that went into this book. Like, in other words, they picked the best stuff, I could tell. They'd say, out of every artist, we're going to pick your best stuff. Look at that. That's a little baseball game. I just went to a baseball game, do some drawings myself. From this particular angle, which is interesting. But I like what they did with the color better than what I did. So anyway, Urban Sketching. It's a fairly new book. It probably came out a year ago. It hasn't been around that long. But it's called The Art of Urban Sketching, Drawing on Location Around the World. Absolutely a must-have book for you guys. And let's just pick one more book. Alright, here we go. How about this one? Walt Disney's The Art of Bambi. I shot a documentary myself on Tyrus Wong, who is one of the main designers on the movie Bambi. Hopefully we can see these without much glare. But look at how rich these paintings are. Whenever people think of Bambi, they think of this. Right? That's part of Bambi for sure. But look at all this sense of mood that they have in their work. Look at that. Isn't that pretty close to what we were just looking at with the Urban Sketching book? Right? Loose painting. It totally feels like this poor deer is in this fire. Right? Look at that. Jesus. Isn't it gorgeous? Just this big black shape. This book is pretty rare. I'm not sure if you'd be able to find it. Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous? Right? Hopefully I can show up on the camera. Just absolutely. I know it really has this little bit of glare on it, but just these beautiful mood paintings and things. So when I was doing visual, development for Disney, I had this kind of almost hanging over my head of like, oh my God, all these great artists before me doing this amazing concept work, But you just kind of, take a breath and say, well, I'm going to be part of this world as well. So yeah, I just wanted to kind of give you a glimpse at some ways that I've become inspired over the years. And in my early days, I definitely was not as inspired as I am now. So I want to kind of give you guys some clues as to ways to keep yourself really, really excited. And you all have access because you all have the internet. But just start taking some of this artwork and really embracing it. Really just starting to grab onto things, copy things, and you're going to be so inspired. Like me, you will not be able to sleep at night. You have so many ideas, and that's my goal, is to have you guys as excited with your work as I am with mine. Okay. So anyway, good luck with your next project.